Hey Joe, guess what time it is?
I'm at a loss.
It's time to take things apart.
Oh no! Not the big boy.
ah, well,
What?
welcome back to another show.
You're teasing me, aren't you? You're not gonna take this apart.
We are going to take it apart.
No.
Yes, it's time
But
for maintenance, actually.
how are we gonna take it apart though?
Ah, we're not going to crash it. No,
Okay, okay.
we kind of want to put it back together so it runs again.
And part of that is so that we can do a subscriber request.
Yes,
Tell us about it.
we had one subscriber. He wants to know how how the steam locomotives are built. I've been kind of busy lately, but we're going to take this one apart. So we're not building a brand new one. We're going to take this one apart, see how it works on the inside. Plus, this thing has ran for 3 years in shows. Um, it's pretty, yeah, it needs some maintenance. It needs things greased up, and I want to put some lights in it. There's no lights. Maybe improve somewhere on there that I can. I know a couple things that I'm not sure if I can improve, but like the tender, for instance, it doesn't really go well over the unevenness. As you can tell, it's teeter tottering right there because it's over that one axle, that seam in the plate. And I've had shows.
Yeah, if it shows it's all.
I've had shows where we go around corners and it'll pop out of the track because all the tires can't go all the way down. So hopefully we can work on that.
As much as we try to make perfect tables,
Yes.
like the one that we're on now, they're yeah. Sometimes you get track that doesn't always line up perfectly and
Yep. So we will see if we can improve on that. Hopefully not ruin the stickers that are already on there. If we do, that's all right. We'll make more.
Now, how far are we taking this apart? Are we like literally everything apart?
Not just in big sections. So you can see how it's made. Start wiring it back up for wires. I need to order some stuff. We'll go over that because I want to put like light in the tender box. Maybe like a little flickering light.
Ooh.
A little red, orange flickering light in there. I haven't built that in. That would be kind of fun to do. I need the light in the front
right there,
which we got to route down through here to come back up into the main tank, and then all the way back here because this is where the battery box is. We got to do that. I'm thinking about putting some lights, some little lights down underneath the tires when they turn.
It's gonna be like a real train having to run all the.
Put the lights on the back here, which I'm not sure. I've tried to look at pictures, but for big boys, and there's not really good pictures of them with lights on. So I think there's
a field trip like Wyoming and go look at the one that's
I know, right?
on display.
But even the one on display, even the real one that runs right now, I've not found good pictures of the lights on it. I just haven't.
Like like a video or that's passing by and somebody.
I know at night, but you always see it during the day.
That's a good point. I wonder if they even run it at night.
Yeah, but like there's a red one on the back and the white one. I'm not sure if they both work. If one works at a time, I'm sure they probably are independent. If you're going backwards and end of train light, yeah. I know that they've got little lights up here for your numbers, but these are so small that I probably can't fit anything in the numbers up there on the front. Usually they have like a light that kind of looks like a lantern, one on each side that's kind of greenish, but I don't have that on this train. Maybe we can put that on. I don't know. I haven't got that far. So this is gonna be a trip. Take it apart, put it all back together. It won't be all tonight.
Taking it apart, you're not gonna like cry on us, are you? Be like, no.
Only if I can't remember. Only if I can't remember how to put it back together. Because there's no plans. There's no plans. This is, I got the original kind of plan-ish off of a website way back in the day. I don't remember the name of it. And then I put it together and it looks real bulky. And I just went back through it about 3 times, front to back, a couple times, and did my own thing. And this is what I got today. So there's no plans really for this.
Well, I'm impressed. And I guess if we really had to, we'd play the video backwards. So when you pull a piece
There
off,
you
it's like you're
go.
putting it on.
There you go. So we may be watching this ourselves a lot. So, but we're just going to be talking about this, talking about different things while we're taking it apart, and about what we're going to be putting in it. So, as far as wires and gearing it all up and all that stuff, we just ran it just a second ago. Just get it on the table, and it is squeaky. So all the grease and everything's kind of dried up on it. So we need to.
That's a good thing to talk about first here before we really tear into it. That is, I can't read it from that angle. Labelle 106.
They have several different ones. Labelle does. You want the 106 for Lego. It
It's
doesn't
specifically designed chemically for
this type
the
of plastic. Yes.
So other ones they could eat into it. Different. The number is the chemical, not the chemical number, but like the identifier from the company for the different chemical makeups.
Yeah.
So if you have another one that's not 106, it could eat the plastic a little bit. It could
Discolor it.
Yes.
Seize it up. Things like that. I do recommend you take. I mean, anything that moves, unless it's ball bearing, on your rolling stock, use grease. Take it apart once or twice a year. Put grease in it. I haven't done this for 3 years, and it's really noisy right now. We may even have to change the gears in there, because maybe if we get in there and the gears are powder, we might change the gears. It's ran that many shows. Well, that length of 3 shows, 4 shows.
Now Lego classifies roller coaster in the train category, so it's fitting with the train channel.
Yeah.
That I've put this on my roller coaster before. It actually is worse.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because it's got like a gel. The grease is kind of like a gel. So when it spins on there initially on those axles, because it's a gel, it's not like friction, but it's just that fluidic resistance, that gel resistance. So it'll go like a little bit and then stop. And then what I find is I have to wipe off all the excess and then get in there and like really make it into not an oil, but just a film.
A film. Yeah, just a film on your
axles. And then once I get to that point, it runs happy for 3 hours.
Now, do you have to reapply it after a while?
The roller coasters, that's a whole big discussion, because every person that I've ever talked to that has the roller coasters runs great initially, and then after a while, the cars just stop playing nice. And I know some people that have ordered the axles, and after every 3-4 shows, something like that, they replace all the axles and the whole thing and
go again. Wow, did not know that one. The other thing that I would recommend that for is the GBC guys.
Yeah, but you gotta be careful with it. You can put it in the gearing portion of it, but any part that touches the ball will get interesting.
Yeah, don't put in the gear or the ball part, just all the gears, But some I've got one GBC where you have to have friction. If not, it doesn't work right in the axles.
Right, because it's catching something and then moving based off of the clutch.
So, just saying, but I use this on my trains. I take them apart every once in a while and actually put this on. The steam locomotives have a lot more moving parts on there. So that's why you have to do it more often on that. Whereas the diesels, just a couple gears, that's it. Axles, that's it.
We have built-in motors, and they got the grease inside of them. So.
Yep. So anyway, we're gonna start taking this apart.
Well, we had a little audio snafu. My bad. My equipment decided that it was just done, but we managed to get the video, as you can see right here.
Yeah. No worries. This is just the director's commentary tonight. So as we watch this, we're just going to be
going back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
So what you're going to have is the description of what Brad's talking about right now. And what are you talking about right now?
So right now I'm explaining how, if you're going to make the train, how the base, first of all, the base swivels on this one because it's the big boy, you got 2. But if you was going to just make a train, you do not have to make it swivel. It can just be, one solid set of wheels, drivers underneath the locomotive. Right here, I'm showing you, well, I'm struggling to show you how the back, the tender, how it works is it goes around corners. So with it, those parts slide side to side, which you'll see in just a second once I get the axles put back underneath it. So back stays there, but you can see how it slides. That's the magic of that long tender. Now, the other issue I've got with it, which I'm going to explain here, is it teeters. When it goes over high spots and stuff, with those wheels underneath the center, it's like a teeter-totter. So that's one thing I'm going to try and work on with this as I redo it. Now I'm just showing you the detail, the running gear underneath.
We're going to get into very close-ups of each one of those components being taken off. So don't worry about pausing at this point in the video. You can definitely pause it later to get your close-ups.
Yes. Right now I'm just going to start taking things apart because I want to tear it down. We're going to do maintenance on this thing is what we're doing. I'm going to add a few more details to it, add lighting to it. But the biggest thing is I'm taking it apart to, I need to put grease in all the moving parts. And
the battery pack there, we're talking about being able to use different channels to wire it. If I remember right, this was where you were talking about getting the right cable types.
Yes, yes. Got them on order right now. You can see how the connections on the bottom are different, but on top they're the same. So I am getting some aftermarket power function cables, so that way they're the dark blue on both ends, and I can cut the cable in half and wire it, splice into that, so that way I get 2 for 1 basically. Because if I cut that one right there, I'd only get one end for my for that BU-Wiz. So that's what I'm talking about. Is I want to cut that, have both ends, and then you brought up a good point right here too that you're describing, which is
the power function cable has 4 lines that go through it. 3 for positive, 1 for negative, and one of the channels is constantly on for power, and the other 2 flip back and forth for if you want a motor to go forwards or backwards. So you can tell your BU-Wiz to put power in different ways. That way you can light up your the front lights. You can light up the, what are they called? The lights that shine down on the wheels.
They're just they're just basically your, well, you got your cattle lights, or your curb lights. Those ones would just be like your clearance lights and things like that. Right here, I'm starting to take it apart, showing you just the connection I have between the tender and the locomotive itself. On the big boy, well, I'd say any steam locomotive, if you can do that hard connection instead of having a magnet there, I'd prefer that, because your tender is always attached, and it seems like if you have a magnet or something that can come apart, it usually comes apart. So I like to do the hard connection like that was.
And when it does come apart, if you were using a magnet, it can put a lot of strain on that power function cable.
Yeah, especially if it's in the other part of the train. So putting this all back together here, I believe about 20 times in the video I'm going to explain or say in here that I'm going to be watching this again to put the train back together.
And here's number 1.
And here's number 1. So, so yeah, we're taking good video of it all to try and that way I remember how to put it all back together.
Yeah,
because it's still in parts right now.
And that's just right here putting it back together a little bit.
Yep.
Because this is not the main part that's coming apart.
Right now I'm talking about the bearings. These are just the old standard Lego axles and tires. There's not any bearings in there, but I have seen people take those apart and actually put bearings in those old Lego trucks, I guess you want to call those. So they actually cut right there, put a bearing in there, and put the axle back in. So I just haven't done that on this locomotive.
It's a lot of work.
That part of it is a lot of work if you want to do it that way.
Much easier to go with the Technic that you've shown in the previous video.
Yeah. So, okay. Now I'm getting ready to start pulling these off, trying to decide which one to pull off. I'm indecisive. Okay. Okay, so I start with the front one. Now I'm starting to show you a little bit of the turntable.
That's right. Turntables.
Turntable. Okay, then we get into
Then I got distracted. Tiles.
Squirrel. Squirrel again. Okay, now right here is how my front end works on my big boy. So as it goes around, not only does it have to turn, but it needs to slide. And that's how I fixed mine when I built this, is I made it so the front can slide from side to side as it turns. Because before this, I just had it just so it pivoted and it'd derail. So you have to have it slide a little bit. This is all the little fancy things for this big old train to run.
Yeah, my smaller trains have a similar where it just pivots, and I'm guessing because they're smaller, they can get around the corners.
Yeah.
And kind of get away with the not derailing. But this large of a train, you need that function.
Yep. Then you can see my drivers. Now this part of the train is pretty much the Technic beams underneath there. I will be taking this apart later. Just to try I gotta grease it all up in there and whatnot, because I had this thing squeaking when we had it running last. So it was squeaking pretty good.
Pointing out there all those connection points that gotta get greased up.
Yep. Along with all the rods and all that stuff, which I actually think I might redo. Get some 3D printed ones. Yeah, I know someone who who could do that for me. But anyway, all those connecting rods and how they all go together. I was explaining on right there, I believe, that when you build a locomotive, there's a ton of different ways for the connecting rods to go. In reality, I think there's 4 or 5 ways, and if you actually study locomotives, but everybody has their own way. I like to try and look at a locomotive, pick out the main features of the drive rods, and try and recreate that. Pretty difficult to do, especially if you're going to have parts of them moving. So that's what I'm just showing there. If you actually look at a big boy and that right there, how it comes up like that, that's a typical big boy connecting rod layout. So you get your pistons and your slide or glide on top there, just like the real thing.
Just watching that go around, that's smooth, very well done.
It needs to be greased though. That thing was squeaky.
Squeak, 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 squeak,
Yep.
squeak.
So I've had this big boy in probably the last 3 years. I've ran it without going back through and greasing it. Okay, right here, I'm taking the back one off, trying to get the electrical line out of it enough that I can start taking more apart.
Oh, I'm just here to watch.
So, just trying to take this apart as carefully and get what the parts big enough, not individual parts. Just trying to get the big parts off so I can look down inside, start checking out what needs to be maintained and all that stuff here.
And part of the challenge at this point is, even though it can look pretty obvious of what comes off next, it was kind of picking off piece by piece just to see what was on top, and
Yeah.
Was one piece blocking another piece as you went.
Yeah, it was a challenge. Jigsaw puzzle.
And this whole side stayed as a unit off of the train.
Ish.
Yeah.
So, trying to carefully take this apart here. As you can see, it's start to see how the motors are in the end Then you got the gears right there, and they come down.
So there's a whole lot of snot work in here to be able to get it all fit in. You can see even that connecting point, that power function cable is on its side.
Yeah. You'll see here in a minute that it's all connected inside too. When we get inside, all the power function motors are connected.
A lot of that snot work is to get the right detail on the side, very accurate to the actual train to be able to get the right angles and everything. You can't just stack brick and plate on top of each other. You got to go sideways with snot.
Yeah, try to get that right, the correct roundness on the side with all the detail. You got the tubes there on the side, they're actually upside down. So how that's connected, the bricks are actually upside down and stick out for those round pipes to be there. Right here is the top of your, I'm not sure what that is called, but those three humps on the top. So those are actually butted up against each other with axles in there to help line everything. And that one that just fell off, that it covers the, I've got a reverse switch right there. The reason why for that reverse switch is I've got a Technic motor on each end, and then I've got an axle that goes from all the way from one to the other. So one turns clockwise, the other one has to turn counterclockwise. So I've got a reverse switch right there.
I think we do get, a little bit later, we do get a little more view of that axle going through it.
Yeah. Now the reason for that axle to go all the way through and tie it in is the simple fact that that way it keeps the front and the back timed. Yeah, it just keeps it in time so that way your front end doesn't drag your back and your back end doesn't push or drag. So it just keeps all the axles, tires going all the same speed to time those two motors together. Because even though you've got the same battery box going to the motors, they don't run the same speed. So.
Right, and it's got the drive wheels in both ends of it also. So it's not like it's one set of trucks moving your entire train.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean it's fully the drive tires actually drive the train. So all of them.
Which is interesting for, you would think that the weight of the train overall, pushing down on the weight of it going to one half of the trucks. You have the front trucks and the rear trucks. With the weight distributed between the two trucks, you would think that all that weight would give enough to pull a long train on just one set of trucks if you're moving, if you're transferring that power to only one.
Yeah.
But that's not the case, is it?
No, it will actually slip and all that stuff. Where since I've got it powered on both, out of all my trains, this is probably the best one for pulling out of all my trains. Just because all 16 drive wheels are pulling all at the same time, and you got all that weight. I mean, this thing it's awesome for pulling those long trains, or the long train. Okay, so we're still just taking it apart. I'm probably complaining about all the different parts I'm having to undo here.
You're not ready to throw it off the table yet?
Not yet, but I probably am saying one more time of how Joe would take a really good video of this, so I know how to put it all back together again.
Sorry, I'm getting all the close-ups.
All the close-ups.
Comment down below if my camera work is adequate, or if the next video I need like focus on certain parts. Let me know.
Well, I think for the most part, if we can get the train back together, it's adequate.
It may be missing a couple bolts, right? That's the
right. Yeah, if you got a couple extra bolts left over, you're a true mechanic.
I've seen those things where people are like, "Oh, I like to mess with my mechanic buddy," and when he's working on his car, taking a couple extra bolts over. I'm like, "Oh, that is so mean."
That is so mean. right here, I mean, you can see some of the detail, like right there, the gray firebox on the bottom. Left that with the studs out because that's how the wheel train is. They got the bolts and all that stuff sticking out there, the rivets. I'm taking that part off right now.
That is a feature from this age. That's kind of like one of those beauty marks, if you will.
Yeah.
All the riveting on the side of all the metal.
Yep. Okay, now we're down to the main beam, backbone, I guess you could say, of the train, with all the snot and all that stuff. Trying to get the last few parts off here. There's actually quite a bit. There we go.
I'll grab
That's a
something.
big
Squirrel
chunk.
again.
Squirrel. There's the cab. Inside the cab, there's you can see the fire down in there barely. I'm talking about how I want to put some LEDs right there, so that way when you look through the other end, there'll be a fire going in the boiler. Okay, now I'm probably explaining all the snot works upside down, how it's all connected. Because there's a couple ways of reversing your bricks. They're upside down right there. How the top right through there is where all the electrical goes, and that's where I want to take all my LEDs. All my wiring is right up there with all that wiring for the motors. So that's going to be up in that area.
Part of that's going to be a challenge, bringing it down from the front motor into the truck for the lights down
Front
inside the
light,
truck.
yes. So I'm still working on that. I did get the LEDs the other day. I ordered those, so I got those for the next video, where we can start putting them down through all that stuff and the tubing and all that to get them to the front light.
Then some more demo work. You can see all these power function cables are all squished in there.
Yep.
And we're just about to the point where you can see a bunch of the gearing. And if I remember right, I had asked you at this point about how these cables fit in here and the switch requirements.
Yeah.
So you can see there where we had to connect to, or where Brad has connected it all together, and how that switch plays a role in reversing the motor.
Yep. When I was originally building that, I had a hard time with that switch, trying to find a place for it. Well, you can see there's a lot of, there's no room in there. There's a lot of bricks.
It sure made it look like there was a lot of room in there.
But okay, now we're down to, there we go. Now we're down to the main backbone, which is just the two motors, the two gears in there.
You sure you can be able to get this back together?
For this video, going reverse, I think I can. I hope I can. So, it's looking good though.
And that's one of our grease points.
Yep, you can see the powder in there.
The powder itself is not a big deal until you just keep running it with the powder in there.
Yeah. It just keeps grinding itself, basically.
Oh, that's right. We were going to have the minifigs take apart the engine. We got this whole shed built, and we didn't even put it in there for them to take care of it for us. We took the hard route.
Yes, we did. Well, if we waited for the minifigs, this might be a 2-year project, so we're trying to speed it up.
That's true, and then we got to pay them.
Yeah.
Let's see. You were telling us their rate, their hourly rate for the minifigs.
Oh, is that what it was?
That's what that was. I think it was like a gold coin a day, or one of those $100 bills a day, or something like that.
Something like that. I haven't talked to the union yet, so I don't know what they actually charge. Okay. Now I'm just trying to expose the actual axle running through. No big deal.
Looks like you got 3 axles in there or so.
Yep.
Do you think a 32 would fit in that?
Probably. Yeah, at the time I didn't have a 32, so hey, That right there works.
Mm-hmm.
So
Somebody can count the studs and comment down below if a 32 would fit.
there you go.
And then I was kind of pointing out here the gearing on it, how it's all connected and keeps the motors in sync.
Yep.
And it's not so much that one of them is going to be taking the load off of the other one. It's that the motors, as one catches up with the other, because there is going to be a slight difference between the two motors.
Yeah.
As they
RPM
catch up to
wise.
each other. Yeah, they'll kind of get in harmony, and one will not have to work any harder than the other.
Yeah. And the axle that goes all the way through, you don't really have a lot of twist on it. You know what I mean? As far as like if you're worried about twisting it or bending it, because all it is just takes that 1% of the what of the one motor that might be going a little slower or faster out of the other one. And I mean they're not out of sync by much, but maybe 1%. That's about it. So
Yeah, and it really helps for working together also, especially as you're pulling the heavy loads,
yeah. So
making the motor last a lot longer.
yep. Right here I'm just getting right down to I have to take out the very last few pieces just to get to the gears, the last couple gears right here. Trying to decide which way is the easiest to get to the base here.
And one
There
thing
you go. So everywhere the axle goes through a brick, anything like that, I need to grease. You can see that one axle sticking up in the other axle a little bit. That's why it's got powder right there. So got that. I'm just probably just going over how that one axle drives that whole truck on the bottom there. Yeah.
Look at that mess. What are we gonna do?
Hopefully it all goes back together correctly.
Right?
You can kind of see how some bricks are upside down right there, how they all go together. Some of them I just used Technic to pins and stuff to flip them upside down to each other.
And some of them are with super glue. I mean,
No super glue.
no glue.
No
involved.
glue. Oh, right here I'm showing. I'm not sure if you can actually see it very well. We're trying to
Come on, camera, focus.
focus on that, but there's damage to the gears. I got 2 or 3 teeth. There we go. Got 2 or 3 teeth that are actually bent on that one. You can see a little bit of wear. So that's one gear I'm actually replacing, and then just getting ready to start putting grease back in all the bricks and plates and putting it back together here. Just checking everything. Alright, so at this point in time, I've looked through a couple of these different items. I'm going to replace this gear because of the bent teeth on the one side, and I can't flip it around. So I'm going to pull that off. Throw that into my, got a box of busted gears, sheared gears, melted plates, all that good stuff. That's
Casualty of war.
Casualty of war right there. So throw that back on there like so.
Did you already?
I'm actually going to put a little grease on that. I forgot to put a little grease on that axle to go back down through there. All you got to do is just put a little dot on there like so. Uh-oh.
If it wants to come out of the tube.
Right?
There we go.
I mean, honestly, this stuff looks like it's kind of like Vaseline. If you want my honest question or opinion, I wouldn't use Vaseline, but that's just the consistency of it. It's not real liquidy.
And putting that on there has a benefit. You got the grease on that one there now, so I'm gonna pull out this one.
Okay.
By as he put the axle in, and it was kind of gelled up, not globbed, but anyway, that glob as it goes through and pushes on the outside of that circle or inside, whatever you want to reference it as, it's going to push it up onto this plate. And this gear rides on that plate, so it'll provide an additional layer of smoothness.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, you can tell how much that axle or that hole's been worn.
Like a video game cartridge. You got to blow on it so it works better.
It is, right? Blow on it, shake it, pray it works. The nice thing about these gears is that you got two sides. So I'm flip that around to the other side, since the teeth on the other side was a little damaged.
And the fact that it was damaged is a really good indicator for what this train has to go through when you run it. Not just in the sake of time, but it's got a bit of weight to it.
Oh yeah.
What do you think? 5 years from now, you'll upgrade to metal axles from aftermarket. These don't look like they're stressed though. Like,
no, they're not stressed or twisted.
I'm going to set it in the groove there. No twist at all. That top raised point is the same all the way across. So I don't know if you can really see with this angle maybe. Valiant effort. But yeah, no twisting in that. So it's not like it's a crazy load that's going to break the internals as you're trying to run this around the track. No worries on that whatsoever.
If nothing else on this axle, it goes from the one motor to the other. All it does is basically keep the timing. So there's no real load because the motors themselves right on the end does all the work right with the gear right there. This just keeps the timing.
Right, I'll use this as my pointer. Right here, the load is going from the motor here to here, because this is where the resistance point is.
Yep.
So that's your load point right there. And then the same on the opposite side with the motor here, it's immediately hitting that load point here. So besides load sharing, where you'll get a minimal across the axle, in case it does deviate a little bit, not worried about it.
Yeah. I don't want the grease to go in where the connection's at or where the gear's at. I want it to go right where it's going through the brick. So that's why I didn't put it in and then slide it in. I'm just going like that there. Okay. Okay, so I want to put some right. Oh, yep, put the gear in. Thank you, Joe. Take that end piece off for a second. See where this goes. Back it up basically one stud. Put some grease on there. Put it back over it.
Well, you don't want to grease the inside over the.
Not really. I don't need the gear to be moving back and forth.
No slipping gears.
No slipping gears.
All right.
This isn't a school bus driver. Okay.
That's it. We should make a school bus train now.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. That back on there like that. put that back on there like this. I believe that's where that was. We'll find out sooner or later.
Oh, you guys twist it to get it to line
Here we
up.
go. Yep. Yeah, twist it a little bit. Get this in twisted a little bit. There we go. Okay. It is back together, that part of it.
All right, let's run it down the rail.
Yeah. I did forget to grease this going up in the side. I'll do that really fast. I mean, you figure these axles here, they do all the work that sends the power down to the drivetrain, and on some occasions they actually even have to support the load of pulling all the cars behind it too. You know, it transfers that weight sometimes through that axle. So that if the turntable's not connected. Okay. There we go. I'll put this back on really super fast because this is actually there, so I don't forget where that goes.
And that's an alright thing to put back on right now because the wiring, we do not want it by all this gear movement action.
Yep. Wiring goes right across the top. Okay. And go just like that. That's all. The only reason for those plates on top is just to keep the wiring from falling down inside. Okay, so we are going to actually stop with that for tonight. And I'll order some parts, make a plan for the next one. Okay, so here's the first test of the big boy. There it goes.
Perfect. Here we go.
Woohoo!
All right, let's hook a battery to it. Let's go. Pull a load.
Right? Yeah, nothing's hooked up, but that's okay.
Okay, we're good. We didn't even use a brick saber. Oh no,
I did once.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. This is our first renovation of the big boy. Our version of renovation.
Now I kind of want to make one that's like that, just to take to a train show.
I know, right? Gear it up
That's the
underneath.
train.
Be like, that's the start. So, anyway.
But and gear it up so it's like crazy fast too, just like whipping around the track like that.
That would be fun.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Random things when it's starting to get late and tiredness kicks in.
Okay, well, I think we're off to a good start. We will, yeah.
And now that you see everything out here, and I know we have done tons of close-ups for all of this, but if there's one specific part of it that you're like, maybe you're doing your own build or something, and you're like, hey, I need to see in here how you got that connection. We've got it torn apart. Go ahead and comment below. Let us know.
Go ahead and ask. And by the way, I will be taking one of these apart because I have to grease all that too. So we'll get there. We will get there. Along with all the wiring.
And it doesn't look that bad. Like, at this point, I think putting
I don't know how it goes back together. I mean, I might be watching the video next week, right before we get going again, just to see how the next step goes.
A little bit of black electrical tape so it stays black, but you just wrap pieces around it.
There you go. All right.
Now just don't touch it.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Yeah, don't let the kids touch it. It's all good. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, ask questions, comment, all that good stuff. So
yeah. And even if you see this in 5 years from now, we'll still have, or you'll still have the big boy.
Yeah.
I would think anyway.
Hopefully.
But and we'll
It'll be-
still reply to those comments and let you know of any details that
Yeah.
you're curious about 5 years from now.
And it might not be this version. It might be another version after it gets all put back together, maybe.
Well, there you go. It'll be the 5-year update improvements.
Yes. So, all right. Till next time. Thank you.